So what's happening in America?
I want to bring in MS Now's Laura Hayfley and veteran financial journalist and MS Now business analyst Ron Insana. So, Ron, higher gas prices, higher fertilizer prices. We're not talking about luxuries here. We're talking about putting food on the table. Just how bad could this get?
Well, with respect to food prices, it's hard to know exactly where it goes, Chris, because it's obviously the cost of transportation pushes up the cost of food that's delivered to grocery stores. And then there's the fertilizer issue in the planting season that we're going through right now that's forcing some farmers to cut back on the amount of planting they're doing. So down the road, we could see something of a supply shock, although albeit a small one here in the United States, to the amount of, grains and other grown foods that are available. And in addition to that, you just got a broad...
This, too, is a system that siphons wealth upwards. You pay more money for gas and food, but on average, the extra money you're paying just goes to the profit margins of ExxonMobil. Like, the reason all of this is more expensive is because the cost of fuel is going up, and the reason the cost of fuel is going up is not because it has become more expensive to produce fuel. In America, it hasn't. It's because the global cost of fuel is up because of the war that Trump started.
Based now move upward in inflation. The energy price shock, if you will likely lead to $5 gas.
Pennsylvania Supreme Court justice has left the Dems over quote-unquote Jew hatred. Good. The more these freak Zionists leave the Democratic Party, the more free it is for actual Americans who love America to take over it. Good. Genuinely. If you participate in this collective hysteria, which is to all amounts as hysterical and unfounded as anti-white racism, but 10 times as socially deleterious because anti-white racism hasn't been used as a pretext for justifying a genocide in Gaza, you should just leave the Democratic Party. Go be a Republican. Like, they literally agree with you. Republicans like mass killing. You like mass killing. Go for it.
Irrespective of what the energy secretary had to say, we probably see that in the short run. And then that also bleeds over into other categories of goods, airline prices, and so on and so forth. And so you're seeing this really become a more broad-based problem. Tomorrow we're going to get a consumer price report. Wednesday we'll get a wholesale.
I mean, it was used to justify the Holocaust? No, the Holocaust was not justified on the pretext of anti-white racism. That's a pretty contemporary... Aryan supremacy and the JQ are different. The anti-white racism thing is a modern hysteria. That wasn't the shit they were saying back then. I mean, obviously there's an overlap in sentiment, but it's not really the same thing.
Inflation read. Friday, we have Kevin Warsh likely taking over Jay Powell as chair of the Fed.
Warsh.
He wants to lower interest rates. This is not exactly the environment in which that can happen.
And just last hour, Ron, the president said he wants to pause the federal gas tax and was asked about exactly that in the Oval Office. Here's what he said.
How long are you going to suspend that tax for?
Till it's appropriate, yeah. Till
Mr. President,
it's a small percentage, but it's still money.
How much of an impact could that have, Ron?
I believe it's about 18 cents per gallon nationally, so it's a modest impact.
What would be your first act as Fed chair? Oh, I would raise the rates so high it would make your fucking head spin. I'm like, unironically, I would say, like, I would put out a presser. I would say, America, buckle up, and then the next day, 12%.
Obviously, it's some help, but if you're going over $5, we'd be talking about record gasoline prices. Even if they were at $4.80, they'd still be flirting with record levels. And as we've heard from some reports here on MS, individuals are beginning to make choices between how much they fill up their tank and what they buy at the grocery store and what else they pay for or can pay for, particularly among middle and lower income families. So, yeah, you can roll the tax back, for a period of time, but the president...
Cutting the gas tax isn't even going to have an effect on this. It's literally going to negate like less than a week's change in the gas price.
Also said today that the ceasefire with Iran is on life support. So the longer this persists, the head of Saudi Aramco, one of the biggest oil companies in the world, said that the oil market might not get right until 2027 if this goes on even for just a couple more weeks.
Wow. And Laura, typically people in larger cities have at least some cheaper public transportation options. But you're in New York, where it's going to cost more just to take the ferry. What's going on?
Oh, people in cities have other transportation options, but you live in New York, where this will be more of an... What? What was the framing on this? The Staten Island ferry is free, for one. For two, New York is the least car-dependent city, I believe, in the entire Western Hemisphere. What are you... What? I genuinely don't understand. Okay.
Yeah, almost nothing is cheap in New York, but as oil barrel prices continue to rise, so do diesel prices, and that's exactly what New York wants.
Why hasn't Trump gotten bored of this war yet? He has. There's tons of insider reporting from the White House. He's been bored of it for like 2 months now. He's bored. He doesn't want to deal. He's just pretending it's not real. We're legitimately like approaching an apocalyptic shortage. We have no solutions to it. No one has a solution. Everyone's just sleepwalking into it. I still think, in spite of the language that I've used to describe the situation, I still genuinely think the average viewer of mine has no idea how bad it's going to get. So why doesn't he stop it? Stop what? Iran controls the strait. They always will from now on.
Waterway ferries run on. They tell me that since January, their cost for fuel has gone up 80%, Chris. So right now they're passing a 5.5% surcharge down to ticket holders to make up for those costs. And there's a lot of frustration with commuters, and that's in part because of what you just mentioned. They don't have a lot of choice in the New York, New Jersey area. They have to commute to work, whether that's the subway or driving through the tunnels or over the bridges. The ferry, actually one of the less expensive options.
Like people, yeah. Thank you for this article. Saudi Aramco, aka the oil guys, warns fuel stocks heading for critically low levels. I don't think people realize that like the spike we've seen in gasoline costs are happening in spite of the fact that we are burning through reserves in basically every petroleum reserve on the planet. Like every government and every oil company right now is burning through a backlog in order to forestall the inevitable rationing that's going to happen. There's going to have to be a collapse in demand to meet the collapse in supply, but right now we're pretending that's not happening. We're just burning through reserves, you know? It's like losing your job and pretending you're all right because you have 2 months of money saved up to pay rent, but it's month 2 and you're coming up on your 3rd month of rent and you're pretending that, oh, look, there's been no consequence to me losing my job. I've been paying for all the stuff, you know? Like we're burning the reserves. Is Russia also suffering from scarcity? I don't know what you mean. Like, yes, on everything. Their economy sucks and their people are poor. It's a destitute, backwater, feudal hellscape. What do you mean? Do the companies burn their reserves because of short-term profit right now? Yeah, they're making a fuckload of money. Also, like, because, again, if they don't do that, we're going to have to start rationing. Have you ever seen how bad fuel rationing was in the 70s? The fuel rationing that happened during the 1970s energy crisis, that oil shock was much less bad than the one happening right now. We get these photos from an oil shock that was a tiny percentage of the oil shock we're experiencing right now. The difference between this oil shock and the current one is that nowadays we have larger reserves, but we're running out. We built up those reserves so this wouldn't happen again, so global fuel instability wouldn't immediately lead to this kind of thing. But we're running out. There's going to be rationing. People are going to be lined up outside the gas stations like they were before. It permanently affected the country. We're doing everything in our power right now to pretend that this isn't going to happen again. Man, cars used to look better. We really got to go back to working remotely. It'll help a little bit. Just remember that, like, in Southeast Asia, East Africa, and the Middle East, they're already doing this. Like, Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, China, they're already implementing, like, work from home, 4-day work week, energy rationing, ban on car use on alternating days. Like, they're already doing this. We will have to do this. Again, it's not... the price can go up as much as the oil companies want to put it up. There is not enough gasoline. It doesn't matter how high you make the price. It's, oh, well, America's wealthy. Us being wealthy doesn't change the fact that there isn't enough of it. There's just a finite amount. By the way, EU airlines are cutting prices because people fear fuel shortages could cause mass flight cancellations. Fewer people are booking and the airlines are starting to panic. It's all falling apart at the seams, man. Literally, on every level, the modern economy is built. The modern economy is built on the belief that this wouldn't happen, and then it happened. According to Bloomberg, we're 2 weeks from oil shortages and demand rationing. That's cool.
He does say, though, we're experiencing the biggest energy crisis in history. Yet most of the world still doesn't know what's coming.
I don't know, Nuts. I feel like the fucked up thing is that if we had competent governance globally, This is something we can manage. Unironically, we are seeing more competent governance in places like the Philippines or Indonesia right now, because those are countries where there is a more immediate relationship between the availability of a necessary goods and like potential social crisis. Or in other words, we live in a bubble. The West is so wealthy that we've forgotten that we can starve too. In Indonesia, in the Philippines, the leadership is keenly aware of the fact that a mismanagement of this crisis could lead, in a very, very short time, to mass social instability and their own heads being mounted on pikes. It's not really a joke. Like, we're talking about economic disruptions that could lead to millions of people starving to death if mishandled, that could absolutely take them out. Whereas, again, in the West, like, everyone is retarded and everyone lives in a bubble and everyone has forgotten what it feels like to go hungry, except for the hungry people, of which there are many. But we don't listen to them. It's not great. If we had competent leadership, this could be managed, but we don't, so it won't be. We continue to sleepwalk.
I won't be around to cover it. So for my final TV interview, we're joined by BNN regular Eric Nuttall, partner and senior portfolio manager at 9 Point Partners. Great to see you.
Great to be here.
Let's just get that out of the way then. This massive disruption, a lot of observers saying that we haven't really felt the full bite of the oil shortage yet.
No, we have not. And it's to set the stage, this is by far the biggest energy crisis that anybody alive is experiencing. There remains a lot of apathy in the market because I just don't think people can wrap their heads around it. It's natural when something is so humongous, the human mind just can't grasp it.
Yeah.
Middle Eastern.
Like in the 70s, the world will move towards renewables again to replace oil energy. Again, remember, we're not talking about the grid here. The American energy grid is not what's on the line. By and large, the American energy grid is natural gas, which we produce domestically. It's not affected by the global price, at least not that much, because you can't move natural gas across the water the same way you can petroleum. And solar and coal, but coal's on the way down, whatever else, right? What we're talking about here is gasoline. Gasoline, jet fuel, these are the real issues. And we are not running the American trucking industry with its 3 million truckers on solar panels. That shit ain't happening. You couldn't do that overnight.
Production is down 14 million barrels per day. We've already lost about 650 million barrels or forfeited production already. Even if the Strait of Hormuz were to open up tomorrow, which doesn't seem very likely, we'll lose 1.5 billion barrels of forfeited production. And so what that means is we've got...
Jet fuel is pretty much done. Jesus, fuck. I haven't seen this chart before. Hard landing. Cute title. Jet fuel commercial stocks in days of cover. So it looks like the United Kingdom is just out. France is just out. Spain has some. Norway has some. Germany is just out. Ireland is just out. Yeah, okay. Denmark is just out. Oh, sorry, wait, this chart goes to October 2026. My brain is soup. So we're right here right now then, right? Mid-May? What are they getting these projections from then? God damn it. Buddy, don't come at me, okay? Look at where we are. It's like I'm pointing out that the meteor is 8 minutes away, and you're like, dude, it's literally fucking 20 minutes away. My apologies, okay? But like, holy shit. Either way, that does still mean Germany, France, and Ireland are essentially out. Watching the economy collapse in slow-mo. This is literally like fast-mo right now.
Inventories. The reason why all of this complacency is we had the safety buffer of the last of the ships that left the Strait before the closure. They've now reached berth. They've unloaded. So now there's no more safety buffer. And in a world where you've lost 14 million barrels per day, you either have to draw down inventories, which is happening, and even in the United States. We saw their diesel stocks fell 4% in a single week. Gasoline, we're not even in the driving season. Gasoline stocks fell 3% in a single week. We think the global oil inventories are going to reach record lows, like all-time lows in history, by the end of May. And that's even if the Strait were to open up today. So we really, really need a resumption in this. And I just don't think the market can grasp just how severe this is and what it means for the oil price.
Presumably, President Trump's people are saying, you know, this is going to get ugly unless you reach a deal with Tehran.
Very much so. So to lay it out, we think that the oil price in the coming days or weeks, we're not talking months or quarters, in the next couple of weeks, you will have to rationalize demand by more than during COVID. And the only way to achieve that, we're seeing some government interventions, like in Singapore, South Korea, they're mandating work from office because they're work from home, because they're afraid of product shortages.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be price. And so we see an inevitable, meaningful price spike coming in the coming days or weeks.
The American government, which is incapable of intervening in the market for a wide variety of structural and ideological reasons, does not have any plan to, like, the only thing we're proposing is lowering the gas tax. The only, there will be no federal rollout. There will be no management of this crisis. It'll just be your gas stations run out. That'll be it. Like that in a sane society, the federal government would have already been making deals and negotiating to secure like limited inventories of gasoline distribution across the United States to make sure that people ration and the deprivation of fuel is rolled out slowly and evenly. But we're not going to get that. What we're instead going to get is a 1,000 fractures and supply line disruptions across the country. Well, more than thousands, hundreds of thousands, as a bunch of individual decisions made by middle managers at oil companies lead to certain areas running out faster and people just waking up one day to find that their cars are now useless lumps of metal sitting in their driveway. That's it.
In excess of $150 to take down demand because we simply can't deplete inventories at a constant rate.
Sorry, Eric, what price did you say there?
Iran now has more leverage than they ever would have with a nuke. I mean, Iran has done more damage to the world via control of the Strait of Hormuz than they ever could have with a nuclear weapon. And nuclear weapon detonated at any point on the planet, even at the center of New York City, would have done less damage than what this is going to end up doing to the world, yeah. And it's entirely our fault.
Well in excess of $150 per barrel.
Even the futures market, or certainly the physical market?
Physical is already there.
Okay,
depending on which physical you want to look at. But we think that as you continue to suck oil and products out of the United States, the arb between WTI and Brent and other benchmarks is going to narrow quite considerably. So, and it's.
I think what you'll first see is truck drivers will begin to riot as the cost for them to drive loads will exceed their payment. You know what's going to be really, really bad that nobody wants to talk about? All of the individual contracts that trucking companies have to deliver groceries and other necessary goods to rural communities that completely rely on the availability of that trucking. All of a sudden, the route to deliver those goods is going to be vastly more expensive than the payout for the contract, which means those rural communities will either need to fork up a lot more money for their deliveries, which they can't afford, or their grocery stores are just going to run out. People in small communities that rely on like a single grocery store or corner stores are now going to have to drive further and further to get their food, which will only exacerbate problems because now you're just pushing off, you're actually making it less efficient, right? Because it is more fuel efficient for one truck to deliver a fuckload of groceries to one place nearby than it is for 100 individual vehicles to drive out an hour and a half to get to the next nearest grocery store. So it's going to compound into a series of failures. All of this could be prevented if the government intervened, but they won't. Some state governments might. Some state governments might, but the federal government won't. Didn't the Ruroids vote for this? Yes, every one of them.
It's wild to see.
For quite a while, Eric, you were more keen on natural gas. But you switched, you say, before the war began in February.
We talk about like a food crisis because of an unavailability of fertilizer, but there's a very real possibility that many farmers won't have the gasoline to run their fucking tractors. Not even joking. Like, more and more of these farmers are going to have to siphon a limited amount of gasoline between their home vehicle that they use to get groceries and their farming vehicles that they use to produce food. It's going to be an unwinnable situation. There will literally be like no way to resolve it.
Besides oil more?
Yeah, we did. So we switched pretty much 100% oil in around January.
Why was that? Why did you make that move?
So recall, coming into this year, we were supposed to have the most anticipated oil supply glut in history.
Yes.
We were monitoring that very, very closely, and we just didn't see it translating. Like, we follow global oil inventories very, very closely.
Yeah.
And so there were spreadsheet barrels, and then there was reality. So we thought that the market was overly pessimistic. Today, we're 100% oil weighted. Wow. In fact, we only have 11 names. So I think it's very, very obvious today what you want to own, not for the oil spike, but in terms of what the day after looks like. But what does the energy market look like once the Strait of Hormuz opens up? In that world, we see roughly an $80 floor. We think demand is going to be boosted by about 40%, just as we have to replenish depleted stocks.
This is extremely speculative. This portion right here. This is like, guys, if everything was fixed tomorrow, maybe we could get away with the world only being a lot worse rather than super duper mega a lot worse.
Did SPRs. And also we think it's likely that we're going to lose productive capacity, especially in Iraq. Because you've got thousands, you've got 10,000 wells in the Middle East that you've got to bring back on. Many of these are old from very mature fields. So that's the market hasn't even gone there yet either.
So your fund is up, as of March 31st, was up almost 40%. So pretty good year.
Yeah, we're up 44% so far.
Right. And what are your big holdings among the Canadian energy stocks, Eric?
So we would have, again, we only have 11.
I'm glad you're making money.
There'd be 4 U.S. and then 7 Canadian. We do own Suncor and Cenovus, both of which we think. So we're using $80 oil for our frame of reference. So both names are trading at 6 times cash flow, about 12% free cash flow yields on forward basis. We own Strathcona, a name that they're growing their production by 45% over the next 4 years, while also generating enough free cash to give us about a 9% special dividend per year. And once they reach that, they can sustain.
Don't let Vosh scare you guys too much. This is what he does. Pretends the sky is falling and tells you to buy rice and beans while he spends $500 on jeans. While it will be bad, not nearly as bad as these streamers who profit on selling fear make it out to be. Well, Chad, I guess it's up to you. Who are you going to trust? The chatter or the guy with $500 jeans?
Production for 50 years. We own Athabasca, still a very large holding. It's gone from 18 cents to $12.
I must have made some pretty good choices in life to get those
and especially in the market going forward. The emphasis on security of supply, like the Indias of the world could no longer exclusively rely on the Strait.
No.
And so it's not surprising that they're calling us and they're saying, in fact, there is a business case. There is a demand for more Canadian energy.
Eric, we'll have to leave it. You've got many years ahead of you, though, managing oil money. I know it's your passion.
It is. I'm going to miss our conversations. We've been doing this, I think, for almost 15 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Of your 25.
Rice and jeans. Shell's suffering from low supply. Well, yeah, everyone is. Shell reports nearly $7 billion profit. Well, I'm glad they're making money. Oh, was this just the first quarter report? First 3 months of the year? Oh my God, this is just the first 3 months. This isn't even accounting for like the really bad spike of the past month and a half. Following the doom ticker, oil prices rise as prospects for a U.S.-Iran peace deal fizzle. Trump calls the Iranian peace deal unacceptable. Iran defends its demands. Several oil companies have posted huge profits in the first quarter. Saudi Aramco said its profits had jumped to over $32 billion in the first 3 months of the year. We don't see any demand destruction, an Aramco executive said on a call with analysts. That's cool. Modi urges Indians to cut back because of soaring energy costs. 1.4 billion people. A call for sacrifice that landed like a thunderclap and underlined the severity of the economic crisis caused by the war in Iran.
Remains in place. It's unbelievably weak, I would say. I would call it the weakest right now. After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. They said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support. They understand these are all medical people. Dr. Oz, life support is not a good thing. Do you agree?
Bad prognostic.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support, where the doctor walks in and says, sir, your loved one has approximately a 1% chance.
I don't think we're getting out of this tomorrow, guys. Even oil-rich Canada's feeling it. There is no amount of domestic oil production that fixes this problem because the oil supply market is global. Like, the United States is increasing oil exports right now. We are increasing the amount of oil moving out of the country. Look at the blue line. Why are we? Because there's a global shortage, and our oil companies want to make money. Trump's never going to do an export ban. He's too bought. I don't even know if one would work. I don't think we have, like, we rely so much on oil exports. I feel like the logistic, like shifting the logistics of our oil extraction or petroleum extraction towards local refinement, I genuinely don't know how we could do that, or if we could do that. We might be able to, but cutting off from the global oil market would also massively increase global prices for the rest of the world, which means that their food crisis would get even worse. And we do import food. We produce a lot of it, but it's the same issue. Yeah, we would make the rest of the world a lot worse off, which would come back to hurt us. An export ban is a bad idea. We're all in this together. We haven't built a new refinery since the 70s. We literally can't refine all our own oil. Yeah, we're into this. We're in this together. But if a country nationalizes oil production, can they avoid the shortages? No, totally unrelated. Nationalizing oil would do literally nothing. It would have no effect whatsoever on this. There is just not enough oil. The world needs more oil. The world's demand for oil is less elastic than it needs to be. Yeah, that's a lot of links. How about just banning prices rising and use up all the oil? Well, then when we ran out of oil, civilization would end. Like, that's not really an exaggeration. If we just flat capped the price and then ran out with no buffer from the price increasing, lowering demand naturally, that would just be like the end of human civilization, maybe? I'll put it this way, okay? If the United States implemented a price cap on gasoline, and I'm not joking, I would spend a significant amount of my saved money on ammunition, and I would start sandbagging my walls. I'm actually not kidding. That would be like a goodbye stream, it's been nice, drive out into the wilderness to start building like that. Yeah, that would be like the end times, genuinely. I'm not joking. It's not going to happen either. No, as crazy as Trump is, the people around him are aware of the fact that putting a price cap on gasoline right now would probably end industrial civilization. They're doing that in Europe, ending industrial civilization. About time. Vosh is acting like the ground still isn't filled with oil. I love YouTube chat. Sell-side energy analysts continue to use the base case of the Strait of Hormuz reopening. JPM is using June 1st. Oh, fuck. So even some of the more pessimistic analysis that we're seeing is predicated on the assumption that the Strait of Hormuz will reopen to like maximum possible production within 2 weeks. Oh, fuck, my tummy. Oh, my tummy hurts. From Financial Times. Why are oil prices not higher? Good question. I'm not joking. If you were a magical deity that could magically change the price of fuel, I genuinely think the move that you could make right now to save the United States would be to snap your fingers and make gasoline $10 a gallon. At minimum. I'm not joking. I think that the best case scenario right now is to price in a huge disruption early so that people start scaling back demand as quickly as possible. Because the alternative is that we wait until that demand reduction is imposed when we have less reserve oil, which means we have less time to adjust to the supply shock. I'm confused. Why would a price cap on gas actually end the world? Because the world needs gasoline to function. Trucks deliver groceries, people go to work. It's not really an elastic demand. And if we cap the price of gasoline, right now we are using more of it than we produce by a lot. We are rapidly running out. We are very, very, very close to hitting the floor, the bottom level of the operational reserve, at which point you start getting critical supply line disruptions. Stuff that makes the Evergreen in the Suez look like a fucking joke. We're not talking like, oh, the ships take 2 days longer to get to port. We're talking like entire towns no longer have the ability to get food anymore. There are no trucking companies that are willing to take contracts to send food out there. We're talking about like actual potential mass starvation, even in developed countries, let alone the developing ones. So with all that in mind, the only possible hope for surviving this without like catastrophic industrial collapse would be to get people to act as though gasoline is as scarce as it actually is as soon as possible. Right now, by keeping the gas prices as low as they are currently, we're encouraging people to not really scale back demand. People need to be acting right now like we're out of gas before we're actually out of gas. Because if we only start acting like we're out of gas when we are out of gas, that's the end times. That's it. Cuba? Yeah, I might remind you guys that, like, about a month ago, Cuba had a bunch of hospital patients die because Trump was embargoing oil to the island and they ran out of diesel to fuel their hospital generators with. That is the level of operational collapse I'm talking about here. Of course, we don't use diesel generators for our hospitals unless the main power is down, and we do have power, so that's good at least, but it's not good. Always doom and gloom. Oh yeah, I forgot the world's ending. Hey, listen, you can ignore me now, but, you know, the rest of your life is going to... The world for the rest of your life is going to make you look back on these times the same way that people think about the pre-COVID era. The same way that people think about the pre-World War II era. That glimmer of optimism that people felt in the early 30s before things all went to shit. People are going to have a lot of remember back when conversations. You can doubt me now, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm right. And you'll remember these words when you live in the world that I'm describing. Like, futures straight up need to be $250 right now. Arguing that any market is clearing at the wrong price is always a dangerous game, but maybe he has a point. Nearly $1 billion barrels of seaborne supply have been lost since the Strait of Hormuz closed 10 weeks ago. Even if hostilities ended tomorrow, the time needed to restart production and move tankers to where they would need to be would probably remove other cumulative 1 billion barrels from the 2026 supply. Yet futures are only about 66% more expensive than they were at the start of the year. $100 Brent means we're little changed from levels that seemed routine between 2011 and 2014. Many people, like Halligan, see these relatively becalmed levels as evidence that oil traders are naive or credulous about headlines predicting the Strait's immediate reopening. There's also more slack in the system than usual through previous supply shocks, since global oil inventories were unusually high going into the crisis. Not anymore. Vosh forgetting that once we have to ration oil, we will then have enough oil. That is not how that works. We don't have a national rationing program. What happens if all of the gas stations in a tri-state area run out? You think that all of these, like the gas stations and oil companies, are going to self-manage the rollout of gasoline to an even extent across the country? We don't have a federal government capable of managing this. You need like top level, like top down control. To give you another example, right now in America, we import and produce vastly more food than we consume. We have an excess of food available. But if all of a sudden the total amount of food available in the United States was 80% of our consumption, that does not mean that every American would just eat 80% as much as before and we would all get a little bit thinner. That means some areas would merely experience a catastrophic increase in grocery prices and other areas would face mass starvation. The only thing that could stop that would be a hyper-competent nationwide rationing program managed by the federal government, organized and operated with the same level of efficiency and control as a military rollout. The Pentagon would be sending troops over to every fucking truck rolling groceries into major city areas. It would look like a federal takeover of every state. That's the only way out of that situation. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The federal government is unwilling to interfere in market processes. Everything is going to be priced in when it's priced in. Other countries are doing what I'm describing right now. South Korea, Japan, China, the Philippines, Indonesia, India now, all of them are doing what I'm describing. On some level, the federal government is directly intervening, but not here. Vosh, in the end, we're talking about 20% of the world's oil production, not 50 or 100. Oh, fuck. After a short period of local shortage, everything will settle down at fuel costing. You don't understand. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. Buddy, if we had 80% of the food available, if America on average consumes like 1 trillion calories a day, but there are only 800 billion calories in the United States per day being produced and distributed, that's not a problem you can fix with pricing. Isn't the government literally intervening to do the opposite, keeping gas prices low by removing the taxes on them? If anything, we should be increasing the tax on gasoline right now in a desperate effort to try to price in the supply shock early. We should be doubling the cost of gasoline so everyone goes, fuck, and adjusts now before we actually run out. It's kind of like how the point of the vaccines during COVID wasn't to prevent you from getting COVID, but reduce the number of necessary hospitalizations to a level that prevented the hospitals from being overfilled, which is what led to the deaths because people couldn't get ventilators. Likewise, if we make oil as expensive as possible right now, you are slow rolling the reduction in demand by increasing price, rather than like delusionally coasting until a point when every single gas station is like, well, sorry, we ran out. Gasoline is $50 a gallon now, I guess. Like that's where we want it to be $10 a gallon now. So like 4 months from now, independent owners of gas station franchises aren't perched on top of their food marts with rifles, holding off a increasingly large crowd of would-be commuters who are all like fighting each other to the death to get the last gallon of oil from the fucking pump, you know? Doubling the price of gas now is the only way to prevent rooftop Koreaning of every single gas station in America tomorrow. I hope this is hyperbole. No one listens to me, man. This is fucked up. Isn't it irrational of oil companies to want to sell down to the bottom as fast as possible? That gets them more money, though. They love the money. Recent news flow shows the role that China has played in the recent softening of the market. China's reduced imports do not reflect a refusal to take cargoes from term suppliers, but rather a refusal to import them. Chinese state trading houses have continued to take their term allocations, but then reoffer those cargoes spot in the Atlantic basin instead of sending them east. The flow of cargoes initially sold to Chinese players is rising, not falling, but they are simply sold on to others, usually before they ever leave Africa. In our view, this is the trade book signature of inventory-driven destocking by sophisticated traders. The supplier relationship is preserved, but the trader stops adding to its own position by passing cargoes through to other buyers. We don't know what Chinese inventories are right now. Still, we estimate China's entered 2026 with 1 to 1.5 billion barrels of crude oil in storage. It likely holds some refined product inventories as well. Part of this is simply needed for operational reasons, but even if China's inventories are drawing at a rate of several million barrels per day, it appears the country could sustain the current situation for months, possibly the balance of the year. Fuck me, man. They're going to make it out. They're going to do what we can't. They're going to use their federal government to rationally price in these costs over time so that there's no like catastrophic wall, no massive shock. They planned ahead and we didn't. We didn't even refill our fucking strategic petroleum reserve. Why is that a fuck me thing? It's good. It's just crazy that like a Pax Americana is actually over. It's insane. It's like genuinely like it's crazy to think about that over the course of my lifetime we went from the unambiguous superpower. 1994, the Cold War had just ended. America was supreme. Nothing else even came close. And now I'm in my early 30s and it's actually genuinely over. All because Obama made a joke. I know people get mad at me for saying this, but I think that like this would have ended up happening anyway. The Democrats are also deferential to Israel, warmongering with Iran, arrogant and presumptuous on the global stage, and unwilling to use the federal government to intervene in market economic crises like this, the fuel shock. It's really just a matter of like how quickly it happened or how badly it would have happened. But I don't know. Yeah, if fucking Biden was putting 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, I really don't think the Democrats would have brought us out of this. Sorry, Trump has done more for socialism than you and Hassan. It's actually true. It's actually true. The America's greatest enemies could not have done as much harm to it as its greatest defenders. California. Uncertainty looms as last oil tanker from Middle East arrives in California. That was a couple days ago. State can meet fuel demand for the next 6 weeks. For California. Like gas prices in California right now should be double this. Unironically, it should be double this. Maybe even more. You think Texas will leverage this? Texas is fucked, dude. Texas is gone. Texas doesn't exist anymore, motherfucker. And then an Epstein suicide note for some reason. Texas has a lot of renewables, at least. It's not about the grid. It's about gasoline and jet fuel. It's not about the grid. There will not be power blackouts or brownouts or whatever. Or, well, there might for a variety of reasons. Like, if mass blackouts happen, I genuinely think it won't be because of the oil crisis directly. It'll be because people are suicide bombing local power stations. And diesel, yeah. Speaking of federal governments willing to take action, Poland's new maximum petrol station prices go into force. Oh, fuck. Ah, no. Poland. No, that's the opposite. No. Fuck. The EU is going to have to cut, like, fuel sales to Poland because they're all going to be sold at, like, 7 durlings a hectare or whatever the fuck Polish people pay for their shit with. The EU is going to be like, fuck, dude. Gasoline should be like 1 drop per €2 or something. The Polish are going to burn it out. Zloty? They're paying in vodka. The new price caps are set daily by the Energy Ministry. Ensure tax reductions are passed on to consumers. Oh, fuck. Is it fair to say neoliberalism has only maintained stability because of low fuel prices? This form of it? Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah. At the very least, the global economy, yeah, like globalized neoliberalism. Yeah. Oh wow, this is from the end of March. Yeah, no kidding. It's probably much worse by now. The funniest part about Trump being driven by the stock market means he keeps lying about the Strait of Hormuz being almost open, directly leading to companies holding off building infrastructure. It is true, and that's a Trump special. His consistent dishonesty about the state of the war means that the market is even less willing to act as though we're on the precipice of oblivion, which is making the problem worse. It's not really. The prices are the same as they were a month ago. Wait, Poland hasn't increased the price floor or the price cap in the past month. They implemented a price cap that their energy secretary can adjust daily, and they've been keeping it the same for a month. Does Poland have nukes? No, right? Can Germany invade? Germany, you need to... I know you did this before, but you have a good excuse this time. You need to undo the price cap. It's literally the only way we're going to survive. Invasion of Poland but woke. I'm just imagining like the energy secretary keeping the price so low that you have like Polish guys posting to social media videos of them just running out the gasoline pump onto the ground. They're just pouring it into the grass or whatever, singing in their Polish babble speak, like they're flexing the way Israelis drink water on camera to show to Gazans or whatever. The whole like the gasoline supply is being diverted to the one country that was stupid enough to impose a fucking price cap during a supply shock. You know, Germany's doing the same thing with their gas prices, but worse. Okay, no, this is different. These are price breaks, not price ceilings. It just means that the price can only change once per day. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's a price ceiling. There's only a price ceiling within 24-hour time intervals. Thank God, if Germany had a price ceiling. Why is a price ceiling bad? Rewind the VOD 30 minutes. A price ceiling is very bad. I'm confused about this price cap. Won't it just mean that once the cost of buying the gas is higher than the maximum cost they're allowed to sell it, then won't gas stations just stop selling gas at all? Yeah, pretty much. Price ceilings are economically tricky in the best of times, but imposing them on a largely a commodity that's in short supply and has a largely inelastic demand is economic suicide. I have no idea what they're doing over there in Poland, but I can only assume that their econ secretary is like a chud and doesn't have a formal education in economics. Or if he does, he might be suicidal. Meanwhile, we're doing the opposite. We're suspending the federal gas tax in America. Or at least we're going to try to, it seems. I can't watch a Kurzgesagt video on stream, unfortunately, Gehong. South Korea implemented price ceilings too, lol. Oh, fuck! I'm like tearing up thinking about it. Okay, but hypothetically, if every country has a price ceiling, doesn't that solve the problem, technically speaking? What happens when you run out of the gasoline? There isn't enough gasoline. When you use it, it's gone. It turns into fumes or whatever. It's fascinating. Chat doesn't seem to understand lack of supply. In fairness, in the West, we have ridden so high and mighty for so long. We have so much wealth, and so much of our economic hardship is driven not by an actual unavailability of a commodity, but rather by financial bullshit that inflates the price. Like, the reason healthcare is expensive in America isn't because we don't have the equipment or people. It's because of financial bullshit that's designed to artificially inflate the price. This is the case for almost everything. Food, housing supply, on almost every level, it's just moneyed middlemen making everything worse. In this instance, for once, it's not the moneyed middlemen. It's actually just, we don't have the thing, you know? We finally run into economic hardship that stems from a thing happening in reality rather than a thing happening speculatively. Yes, the speculative bullshit did lead us here for sure. We do have it, but it's being exported for profit, or can't they refine it here? No, we can't refine it here. We don't have the refineries. And also, it doesn't matter. It's a global oil shortage. It's sold in the global market. Are you suggesting blocking exports? That would be worse. It would only worsen the problem for the rest of the world, too. CPI for April is not looking good. Oh, buddy, you have no idea. You have no idea. Let me just ramble out a title.